A flawed toy that's bent on having playtime all the time. Here's your look at the new Playmates toys. This is the Power Players Madcap. Game on! With the crash of the Minergy-fueled power bands, 9-year-old Axel transforms into a 6-inch tall super-suited action figure and joins the Power Players, a living toy team battling to save the world from Madcap and his evil minions. Now, before we have a look at this little stinker, we're going to first figure out how tall Madcap stands. I'm looking at the figure and it feels small, but maybe when we do size comparisons with the other figures, rest assured that will be coming. Maybe he's going to be roughly about the same height. I'm going to take it right to the very top of his horn, as that seems like maybe it's the highest point right there. According to my trusty tape measure, Madcap stands at 5 inches in height. How does that translate to centimeters, you may ask? 12.8. So over 12.5, but not quite 13 centimeters tall. As we've done in the other reviews, here's the other Power Players that we had a look at. I guess we'll try to do it in order. We first had a look at Axel, not a bad looking figure. And then we had a look at Sarge. We'll try not to cover up Madcap. Then we had a look at my personal favorite right there. That was Masco. Then we had a look at the very large Barbarian. I still love that name. And last, but certainly not least, we had a look at Galileo. As you can see, quite the collection of figures. Now, and again, if you were to see this in somebody's container of figures to choose from, I think you would be hard-pressed to guess that this would be all from the same toy line. And again, that's the real cool appeal of these pieces, is that they're all very unique to one another. They feel like they're all pulled from individual toy lines, and that's pretty cool. Now, there was some assembly when it came to Madcap. What I had to do when I got him out of the packaging, I don't know, there we go. He comes included with very Doc Ock-like tentacles that go onto his back. I guess you could do it in either way, but obviously for him to stand properly, you'd want to have the smaller linked tentacles on the bottom. We're just going to go ahead and attach this to the back. Sort of have to pry it, just kind of squeeze those two prongs together, and then you can fit it on his back like so. And then you've got yourself Madcap. Sort of floating head. Oh, right, yeah, you've got arms and legs. He's pretty much all head with the, of course, the inclusion of some arms and his legs. He's a really neat designed figure. Like, I would have felt like I saw this guy in another cartoon series, more so as something that was just a floating head. He's got a lot of personality going for him. A small touch that I really like that Playmates was able to incorporate with this figure is he does actually have a moving mouth. It doesn't move out much, and it doesn't give you too much of an open area. That's as far out as it will allow you to open it out. Far out. And then you can also open and, like I said, close it. So I like that there's a little bit of posability at least happening in his face, that his face isn't just all molded plastic. But there's a lot of certainly character going on with this guy. I thought that there could have been some light piping happening in the top there. Obviously, for the fact that his eyes are painted, there's no chance that that's going to happen. But the idea that that could have actually lit up the front of his eyes, I think could have been also a welcomed feature, if you will, for this figure itself. He is small in size, as we've already seen. He's the smallest, it seems, of the batch. It would be hard-pressed to believe that this guy would be conquering anything. And let me just also stress the fact that his mad plan was the fact he wanted to have playtime all the time. Now, you may think, playtime all the time, why would you want to be ruining that? But too much of a good thing, of anything really, can be bad. He so happens to want to have playtime all the time, and yeah, that sure sounds good on paper, but too much, like I said, too much of a good thing, that can be a bad thing as well. And I'm sure we'll find out, watching the Power Players, how that turning into, of course, a playtime all the time, how that can turn into a really bad idea all around. So this guy is a very, like I said, bulky figure. He's got pre-molded legs. I mean, there's really no knee articulation or anything like this on this guy. He does have ankle, or does have leg articulation, as you can see right there, the way it's hinged underneath. You can move the figure forward and back. It's a bit of a shame, though, that the figure, on this particular figure of mine, he's a little loose on the legs. The arms aren't so much the issue. I mean, I can still get him to stand, no problems whatsoever, but I sort of have to lean him forward to pull off. If anything, I have to kind of get him situated and then kind of correct his legs to get him to stand straight and proper. He does have posability in his arms, of course, and like with the other figures, the posability is about the same. I mean, you can move this guy's arms forward and back, and you can bring them out. But they're a little bit more stubborn. They're kind of like the legs, where you have to get the arms a certain way. If you want to have the arms down, for example, you have to have that hinge right underneath there so you can actually bring the arm down. Don't mean to be covering your eye there, Madcap. The arms do hinge outward, and you can, like I said, rotate them forward and back. He is one of the few figures also, just by the way his construction is, that you can actually move his arms back and forward, not just stopping at a straight point and then bending. He can actually do both. He can pull off both feet. His arms do rotate, and he does have hand articulation as well. And then he also has the leg articulation. This is a particular figure where you're not going to get a lot of posability coming from him, but the sheer presence and the design of this guy really has me thinking that this is probably the favorite of mine from the entire lineup of power players. Of course, me being the person that I am, I've picked the bad guy as being my own personal favorite. Some would say that's probably a reflection of my psyche, but I gotta admit, that's a pretty neat design. Again, it's like with the other figures that we've had a look at. You feel when you look at these like you've seen this somewhere before. The designs are just close enough that it kind of harks back to a memory that you may have of a previous toy line, previous cartoon series that you may have grew up and watched. And that's sort of the blessing and the fun that goes along with this new toy line, is the fact that you do feel like you have seen figures like this before. I feel like I've seen this head sculpt before. Maybe I'm thinking Megatron, maybe I'm thinking some of the various other floating heads from series. I get very much the vibe of that when I'm looking at Madcap here. He's small, yes, a little bit in size. His posability is more on the limited side. But gosh darn it, I like this little guy. I don't know really, again, how playtime all the time can be a bad thing. But I'm sure they're going to explain that a little bit more in the series itself, why you don't want to have too much playtime. Maybe after all, toys need to take a bit of a break. They can't be played with all the time. Their limbs, like we've seen with other figures in the past, limbs get loose. Figures have difficulty standing all the time. Maybe that's why we can't evoke a playtime all the time rule. And maybe for that reason and that reason alone, Madcap is the villain, because we can't have playtime all the time, mister. You just can't do that. With this toy line or any toy line, playtime all the time, I'm sure some way translates into a bad thing. I'm sure it will be revealed sooner or later what that actually is. Yeah, I don't know. Playtime all the time sounds like a good idea when you think about it. Sounds good on paper. But you gotta believe big picture, and that's what you really have to consider, big picture. Playtime all the time probably is going to be a bad thing in the long run, and there's got to be a reasoning why the power players want to put a squash on Madcap's plan for that. We don't know what the minions look like, certainly in toy form. The fact that he leads over these mini minions, I'm curious to see little mini minions be released from the folks over at Playmates Toys. As it currently stands, I think for the power players, we have the 6 figures in front of us that we've had a look at over the series of the reviews. 5 of the 6 were the power players, and then you've got poor standalone Madcap, who is already short to start off with, but he's pretty short on his minions as well. Right now, it seems like with 5-to-1 odds, I'm pretty sure the power players are going to overrun this guy. So hopefully the folks over at Playmates Toys can quickly make some minions to join the forces of Madcap, because as it stands right now, his chances of world domination, of all the time playtime, I don't think it's going to be happening right now with 5 against 1. What do you guys think of this figure line now that we've sort of gone full spectrum and we've looked at all 6 figures from this line. What is your personal favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. I think I'm, again, leaning towards Madcap. Gotta love and give props to the villains of these series. And I think Madcap hits all the cool elements of what I define to be a really neat looking villain. He's short on stature, but he's got a whole heck of a lot of design going for him. Madcap is my personal favorite. I'd like to read down below in the comments section what you guys think is your favorite of the Power players. Also, a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates Toys who have made all of these reviews possible and nice enough to send these samples my way. If you guys are interested in following up and seeing more of the Power players, you can follow them over on YouTube at Power Players Official. You can also follow them over on Instagram. And of course, you may want to also check out playmatestoys.com and see some of the current Power players that they've got lined up, as well as the other vast range of collectible toys. It started, of course, with the Turtles, but of course, Playmates have expanded even further by producing some pretty incredible toys like the Power players here. So give it a check if you get a chance. Also, if you're in the habit of doing some stuff, you got some available time on your hands right now, and you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell notification, and keep your peepers peeled, my friends and members of the mob, because there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.